Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me tell you what to do if you find a lost iPhone. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So I've talked before about how to prepare your iPhone in case you lose it. For instance, you want to turn on Find My iPhone and then you can use that method to locate it or put it into lost mode and so on. But what happens if you find a lost iPhone? There's a ton of really bad information out there online about what to do if you find a lost iPhone. So let's talk about what you should do, but also what you probably shouldn't do if you find a lost iPhone. So when thinking about what is the best way to get a lost iPhone back to its owner, I come to the conclusion that the absolute best is to turn it in where you found it. In other words, if you find it in a restaurant, turn it into the waiter or the host or maybe the bartender. If you find it at school, turn it into the front office. If you find it in a shop, turn it in to the checkout clerk or the manager. If someone's looking for their iPhone, they're going to retrace their steps, try to figure out where they left it, and that's where they're going to look for it. And they're going to ask these very people if somebody turned in an iPhone. Taking it away from where you found it will make it much less likely they will ever be reunited with their iPhone. So the most important thing is to not remove it from where you found it, but to try to leave it there with somebody else that will watch after it and try to help reunite it with its owner. And I shouldn't have to say this, but it's important that you do this immediately. And I have to say it because so many people post online about finding an iPhone and then keeping it for days, maybe not even doing anything to look at the owner, and then asking for help and trying to do so. If the owner is looking for their iPhone, they're going to look for it immediately. As a matter of fact, when a day or two goes by, they may have already killed the iPhone with Find My iPhone and maybe even filed an insurance claim. And it's too late to reunite them with it. You want to immediately turn it in wherever it is you found it, if at all possible. Don't delay if you really want to help out. And also keep in mind there's a good chance that somebody at that location is the one that lost the iPhone. It could be one of the staff of the restaurant or one of the people working at the school or in the shop that lost it. They're there all the time. So the chances of a lost iPhone belonging to one of those people is pretty high. So turning it in immediately may actually get immediate results. Another strategy when it's not apparent where to turn the iPhone in is to simply look around right there. The most likely time somebody would be looking for a lost iPhone is exactly the time that you find it. Later on, it gets less and less. So if you simply look around, hold the iPhone up, look for somebody that's looking for a lost object, you may actually be able to reunite it with its owner almost immediately. Now another thing you may want to do if option 1 isn't available to you, or maybe do it in conjunction with option 1, is to just take a look at the lock screen on the phone. Because somebody who lost their iPhone can use the Find My functionality at iCloud.com or on another device to put the phone into lost mode. And when they do so, they can provide a message to appear on the lock screen. And the message can include contact information or where to take the phone or who to turn it into. So just by looking at the lock screen, you may get the one and only clue that you need to actually reunite the phone with its owner. It's worth maybe glancing at it as you actually try to find somebody to turn the phone into. Now the other thing you can do is look for the emergency contact information in the phone. So the phone doesn't need to be unlocked for this. For instance, here I've got a phone and it's in locked mode, and if I try to unlock it, it won't unlock. Matter of fact, I can just wait for the Face ID to time out there, and I have the passcode, but I don't know the passcode. But if you look at the bottom left, if the owner has set emergency contact information, there'll be an emergency button at the bottom left. Tap that. Look for medical ID at the bottom left. This will take you to a screen that may have all sorts of medical information for the person. The idea is that if the person is unconscious, that a medical professional can consult this to see if they've got allergies or conditions and so on. But also at the bottom, if you scroll down usually, you'll see emergency contact information. And this is great because it's not the person, it's not the phone that you're actually holding that has this number. It's their closest friend or family member, whoever. So you can then call that number using your phone and hopefully talk to that person and then be able to get the phone back to the owner that way. Now let's talk about if the phone is unlocked. So much information online deals with this, but it's so unlikely to happen. First of all, nobody should have an unlocked phone, right? There should always be a passcode, Touch ID, and Face ID in use. But it's really hard to have your phone completely unlocked nowadays because so many services demand that your phone have a passcode set. So just about everybody or any phones you find is going to have a passcode and you won't be able to get into it. But if you can get into it and you want to devote the time, the first place I would look is in the Contacts app. And when you look in the Contacts app, at the very top should be that person's ID, and you should be able to go to it and get email or physical address or maybe alternate phone numbers for them. If you don't see that at the top, you can always scroll down and look for the Me next to a contact. Also look for any asterisks because those are emergency contact people and those are the first people you should go to. Now I know people also talk about going to the phone app, and then at the bottom you can click on Favorites to see who the favorite contacts are and maybe try to call one from the phone, or you can go to Recents and see if there's a number that's called all the time. And if you want to put the effort in, you can try to call those people. Now one of the reasons if I found a lost iPhone and it was unlocked, I probably wouldn't even do any of this, is I just don't like going through people's stuff. So I would try using method number one by just turning it in, or use that emergency contact info or the person's own info to try to get in touch with them if the phone is somehow unlocked. Now let's talk about some other strategies that I hear people mentioning but I think are pretty bad ideas. One is to turn the iPhone in at the local police station. I think this is a pretty bad idea. You should be turning it in where you found it. This is where the person is going to go to look for it. They're not going to go and try to figure out where the local police station is and go there and ask. And if they do, there's a pretty good chance that the person there behind the desk isn't going to have the time or may know where the iPhone is that somebody turned in before. Now if the person is using Find My to try to find their iPhone, then it could lead them to the police station. So that's good. But whether or not the police actually have the time or process in place to get the iPhone back to that person, even if they've traced it there, well that's questionable. Probably depends on the actual police department or maybe the people working at that specific time. So I would really avoid this at all costs. The only time I would use the police station as a place to go is, say, if all of these other techniques have completely failed, including the ones I'm going to mention later, and you just want to get rid of the iPhone. You don't want to keep it. This could be like the last resort just to get it out of your hands. So here's something definitely not to try. A lot of people say take the iPhone to the Apple Store and give it to them. Well, first of all, there aren't that many Apple stores. It's not always very convenient to go and find the closest Apple store, drive to it, and give them the phone. But second, Apple isn't in the property recovery business. They are not set up to actually reunite people with their iPhones. Nobody's going to take that phone and then try to get it back to the owner. It's just going to sit at the Apple Store. And maybe if the person tracks it there using Find My iPhone and an employee is helpful enough there, they may give it to them. But there's a lot of people working at these Apple stores and it's unlikely the person you're talking to is going to know anything about an iPhone that was turned in earlier. I would definitely not take it to the Apple Store. Now there are some people that say call Apple support and they'll help you. They won't. I have heard that sometimes Apple support refers you to the insurance company that handles the Apple Care Plus insurance where people can get a new iPhone if they've lost theirs. And I've heard that if you talk to them, they can give you a pretty involved process for getting the iPhone to them, which is going to take up a lot of your time. It's just not worth it. Go all the way back to number one. Just turn it in where you found it. I've also heard people mention going to a mobile phone store and turning it in there. Now I think this is only slightly better than going to an Apple store. An advantage of a mobile phone store is there may only be a handful or maybe just one employee working. So turning a phone in and then having somebody come by later who tracked it there may have a pretty high chance of that employee just handing it over to them. If you're going to do this, I encourage you to look at the top left corner of the lock screen and see what carrier the person is using on their phone. If it says Verizon, try to take it to a Verizon store. If it says AT&T, take it to an AT&T store. But the carrier itself is not going to do anything to try to reunite the user with their phone. So it's basically just a way to get it out of your hands. Now other people will mention this slightly useful technique, which is to post to an online group. Your neighborhood probably has an online group at a site like Facebook or Nextdoor or something like that. And you can always post there that you found a lost iPhone and maybe look to see if anybody's asking if somebody found their lost iPhone. It may be worth doing, especially if for some reason you can't do the first one, like you find it in a park or on the street and there's just no place to turn it into. But I wouldn't hold out much hope that this will reunite the phone with its owner because really only a small percentage of your community is probably involved in any kind of online community. Now the last option I want to mention isn't the worst option, but it's not a good one. It's to hold on to the iPhone. So if you can't find anybody to turn it into because it was lost, say, on the street, and you decide that the best way for this to get back to its owner is for you to hold on to it and hope that they use Find My iPhone, then you can keep the iPhone for a period of time. I would make sure it's attached to a charger so the battery doesn't die. Make sure it's at a place in your home where it's getting a good signal. And then I would periodically check the lock screen to see if they've put a message there on the screen. One problem I've got with this is that you may think you found a lost iPhone, but the person who lost it may think that somebody stole it from them. They may not realize they left it on a bench in the park. They may think somebody picked their pocket. And when they trace it to your house, they may even have brought other people like friends or police with them to retrieve their iPhone from who they think is the thief. Posting in a local online community is a great way to kind of prove that you didn't steal it. I mean, why would you post 6 hours earlier that you found this iPhone and you want to get back to its owner if you actually stole the iPhone, right? And also, I kind of like the idea of maybe posting a sign on your front door, for instance, saying, "I've lost your iPhone, I found it at the park," or whatever. And then that would change the expectation when somebody arrives and sees that sign there and was thinking that there was a thief and now they're thinking, oh, wait a minute, maybe I just lost it. But again, I would only do this if there's no place to turn it in where you found the iPhone, which is the more likely place for the person to look for it, if there was nothing on the lock screen, if there was no emergency contact information that you could find, and you basically have no other options and you feel you've got the time to kind of help out. And then even then, after a period of time, it might be worthwhile to take it somewhere like, for instance, the police or even the Apple Store if you have to, just to get the iPhone out of your hands. At least at that point, you won't be responsible for recycling it when the time comes. Again, the top thing to do is just turn it in at the location where you found it. You may feel that you want to put more effort into helping somebody out, but turning it in is probably the best way to do that, even though it is the minimum amount of effort on your part. I hope you find this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.